Consistency is not an accident, nor is it a product of inspiration. It is a weapon, cold and sharp, forged through deliberate force. Most people misunderstand it entirely. They assume consistency springs from motivation, as if daily discipline rises naturally from an emotional spark. But emotion is unstable, fragile, changing with every wind. If you build your life on feelings, your path will collapse every time your mood shifts. Those who rely on motivation rise fast, but fall even faster. They move only when excitement lifts them, and when the excitement fades, so does their progress. This is why so many start strong and end invisible. They mistake enthusiasm for discipline, and they mistake mood for will. The truth is that consistency belongs only to the individual who has learned to act regardless of emotion. It belongs to the one who understands that feelings are unreliable allies. If you seek power, you cannot depend on them. You must establish a pattern of behavior that remains unbroken, even when your mind argues against it. This is the mark of someone who is truly dangerous. The ability to continue moving forward without needing emotional permission. Consistency is a weapon because it cuts through the chaos of your inner and outer world. The average person is ruled by impulses, distractions, boredom, and discomfort. They start one thing, abandon it halfway, jump to something new, repeat the cycle, then wonder why nothing grows. They never stay long enough in one direction to gain momentum. They want results, but they want the path to be convenient. They want achievement, but only on the days it feels pleasurable. They want discipline, but only when it aligns with their mood. This mindset produces weakness, softness, and a life of half-built bridges. Your life begins to change the moment you stop asking yourself how you feel about the work and instead tell yourself that the work will be done no matter how you feel. When you commit to this mentality, something remarkable begins to happen. Your emotions begin to obey your actions. Once your mind understands that hesitation no longer has power, it stops wasting energy resisting you. The inner battle fades, and what used to feel difficult becomes almost automatic. You no longer negotiate with laziness. You no longer argue with procrastination. You no longer debate whether you should act. You simply act. This is the essence of power. This is what separates the disciplined from the scattered. Consistency is not glamorous. It is built in the dark, in silent hours, when no one is watching and no applause exists. It is built on ordinary days, when your enthusiasm has died, when your energy is low, when your motivation is nowhere to be found. Most people avoid these moments, but the strong understand that these are the moments that define them. The days you feel your weakest are the days your discipline has the chance to become its strongest. When you show up on those days, you harden your character. You teach your mind that you can be trusted. You teach yourself that your word means something. And once your mind believes in your consistency, your life begins to expand in ways you never imagined. The reason consistency is a weapon is because it slices through mediocrity. Anyone can be good for a day. Anyone can be committed for a week. Anyone can be focused when conditions are ideal. But almost no one can stay committed through boredom, discomfort, failure, and emotional drought. The one who can do that becomes unstoppable. Life cannot distract him. Stress cannot break him. Temptation cannot seduce him. He becomes the kind of person who quietly outworks everyone, slowly rising beyond the reach of those who were relying on motivation alone. When you view consistency as a weapon, you begin to wield it with intention. You structure your day with precision, you create habits that act as armor, and you direct your actions instead of waiting for your feelings to grant permission. You stop being reactive and become strategic. You stop chasing comfort and start creating strength. You stop seeking inspiration and start building momentum. And as momentum grows, the weapon sharpens. Every day you repeat the act, your discipline becomes more automatic, more ruthless, more reliable. Most people underestimate how powerful a consistent human being becomes. They are so busy seeking emotional highs that they never experience the quiet dominance of long-term discipline. They never experience what it feels like to control themselves so fully that nothing can interrupt their mission. They live on emotional roller coasters, never realizing they could simply step off. The consistent individual, on the other hand, becomes calm, focused, and deliberate. He walks through life with a strength that others notice but cannot understand. They think he is lucky. They think he is talented. But in reality, he is simply consistent. And consistency, when wielded correctly, outperforms talent, luck, intelligence, and motivation combined. This is why consistency must never be treated as a mood. It must be treated as a weapon, a tool of dominance, a form of control, a way of separating yourself from the masses who cannot commit to anything longer than their emotions allow. When you master this, you gain something far more powerful than motivation. You gain the ability to dictate your future with precision. You gain the ability to build anything, achieve anything, and outlast anyone who tries to compete with you. Your will is not something you are born with fully formed. It is not a gift reserved for the naturally disciplined. It is a muscle, a weapon, and a shield that must be trained with intention. Just as a soldier prepares for battle, weak men believe willpower arrives magically, that it appears on the days they feel inspired or disappears when life grows difficult. Strong men understand that willpower is built through adversity. It is forged under resistance. It is shaped by choosing discomfort when comfort is available, pressure when ease is within reach, and discipline when distraction tempts them from every side. A soldier does not step into war unprepared. He trains in harsh conditions. He drills the same movements repeatedly. He pushes his limits beyond what feels comfortable, because he knows that first instinct, first impulse, and first reaction can decide his survival. Your will demands the same level of preparation. You cannot expect to stay consistent, focused, and determined if you have not conditioned your mind to obey you under pressure. In the same way a soldier trains, until the action becomes automatic. You must train your will until discipline becomes instinct. Most people crumble because they avoid the very experiences that would make them strong. They run from discomfort, escape stress, fear difficulty, and seek comfort whenever possible. They live their lives collecting soft habits, weak routines, and fragile patterns. Then they wonder why their willpower breaks at the slightest resistance. They imagine themselves capable of greatness while building their mind like glass. Your will, if left untrained, becomes a fragile thing that shatters easily. But when trained deliberately, consistently, and strategically, it becomes unbreakable. Training your will begins with a simple, but brutal truth. You must deliberately do things you do not want to do. This is the battlefield of self-mastery. Every time you force yourself to rise when you want to sleep, act when laziness whispers in your ear, or continue when your emotions beg you to stop, you strengthen your will. You teach your mind that you are the commander, not the servant. You create a hierarchy within yourself. At the top sits your discipline, below it your feelings, below that your excuses, and at the bottom your fear. A soldier becomes effective because he trains in conditions that mimic the battlefield. Likewise, if you want to train your will, you cannot avoid the conditions that make you uncomfortable. You must expose yourself to pressure. You must step into challenges. You must push into resistance instead of running from it. Every difficult task you finish is a victory. Every moment of discomfort you endure is a lesson. Every act of discipline you choose sharpens your inner weapon. You are not training for comfort. You are training for dominance over yourself. Your will strengthens through consistent exposure to struggle. Wake up earlier than your body desires. Work longer than your mind prefers. Train harder than your emotions can handle. Do the task even when your motivation is absent, especially when your motivation is absent. When you operate on discipline rather than mood, you build a kind of internal armor that others cannot comprehend. They see the outcome, your focus, your progress, your rising strength, but they never see the quiet war you fight within yourself. They never see the battles you choose to face while they run from theirs. A trained will not only commands your actions, but shapes your identity. The more you push yourself, the more you begin to view yourself as someone capable, powerful, and reliable. Identity is built through action, not intention. A person who consistently chooses discipline begins to believe in his strength because he has evidence of it. A person who consistently avoids struggle begins to believe he is weak because his actions confirm it. Train your will, and you reshape who you are at your core. Your environment also becomes a testing ground. Do not expect your will to grow if you surround yourself with softness, easy entertainment, endless distractions, effortless comfort. Remove as much frictionless pleasure as possible. Simplicity and structure strengthen the mind. Chaos and indulgence weaken it. A soldier's training ground is harsh because comfort creates vulnerability. Your mind is no different. What you repeatedly choose becomes what you eventually become. When your will is trained, obstacles no longer appear overwhelming. Where others see problems, you see opportunities to sharpen yourself further. Where others feel stress, you feel challenge. Where others break under pressure, you remain composed because you have built yourself to endure exactly this. You stop reacting emotionally and begin responding strategically. Your strength becomes visible in your behavior long before it becomes visible in your results. Training your will also requires patience. Soldiers do not become elite overnight, they return to the field day after day. Consistency transforms effort into ability. The more you train, the deeper your discipline embeds itself into your identity. Eventually, the tasks you once resisted become ordinary. The challenges that once intimidated you become familiar. The habits that once felt impossible become automatic. Your will becomes hardened, shaped, and sharpened into something most people cannot comprehend because they have never experienced it themselves. As your will strengthens, something else happens, a shift in power. You become less influenced by your emotions, by other people, and by external circumstances. Your inner world becomes stable, controlled, and anchored. Your decisions become intentional. Your actions become predictable to you, but unpredictable to others. You become the kind of person who stays committed long after most people would have collapsed under pressure. And this is what makes you dangerous: the ability to remain unwavering, focused, and disciplined no matter what your mood says, no matter what your environment demands, and no matter what challenges stand in your path. Every day is a battlefield. And whether you recognize it or not, something is always trying to control you. Distractions are pulling at your attention. Emotions are pulling at your actions, and other people are pulling at your time. The individual who does not command his day becomes a servant to everything within it. Time is ruthless. It belongs to no one. It moves whether you advance with it or fall behind. And the harsh truth is simple: if you don't seize control of your days will seize control of you. People often talk about changing their life, but a life is nothing more than a collection of days. If you cannot control a single day, how can you ever hope to control a year, or a decade, or your destiny? The person who wakes without direction wakes already defeated, because a day without structure becomes a day vulnerable to chaos. Hours drift away, Focus dissolves, and actions become reactive instead of intentional, and each wasted day seems insignificant on its own. But over time, these wasted days compound into a wasted life. To control your day, you must first understand that time is not something to manage. It is something to command. You cannot treat time as if it is infinite. You cannot drift through it assuming that tomorrow will compensate for today's lack of discipline. When you live that way, you become soft, weak, and easy to influence. You become a slave to impulses, to excuses, to whatever demand appears loudest in the moment. But when you take control of your time, you take control of your future. The strongest individuals take hold of each day before the world has a chance to interfere. They do not wake up waiting to see how they feel. They wake up with a plan already in place. They do not allow their emotions to dictate their priorities. They dictate their priorities and let emotion follow later. To control your day is to establish a structure so firm that distractions cannot easily break it. It is to wake up knowing exactly where your energy must go, what must be accomplished, and what cannot be allowed to interrupt you. Most people treat their days as open invitations for chaos. They let their phone decide what they focus on. They let random messages or notifications determine their mood. They let social media pull them from task to task. They let other people's demands become more important than their own priorities. Without realizing it, they surrender their day within the first hour of being awake. They hand it over willingly, simply because they failed to prepare themselves. They step into the world defenseless, hoping willpower alone will protect them, not understanding that willpower is strongest when supported by structure. Controlling your day is not about filling it with endless tasks. It is about intentionally designing a battlefield where you can win. You must know when to work, when to rest, when to train, and when to reflect. You must assign your time deliberately. Because time that is unassigned will always be stolen by something weaker, something easier, or something meaningless. The world does not care about your goals, your dreams, or your discipline. It only cares about your attention, and everything around you is engineered to consume it. The more structure you build into your day, the more freedom you gain. People misunderstand discipline as limitation, but discipline is liberation. When you command your time, you eliminate confusion, hesitation, and wasted energy. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop wondering where your day went. You stop drifting without direction. Every hour becomes a tool. Every task becomes intentional. Every moment is aligned toward your growth. This is how personal power is built, not through occasional bursts of motivation, but through daily mastery. Controlling your day also requires saying no, often more than you say yes. You must be ruthless with distractions, ruthless with anything that steals your momentum, ruthless with people who demand access to your time without offering value. The more you protect your day, the more powerful it becomes. And as your days become better controlled, your identity begins to shift. You start to see yourself as someone capable of designing his life, rather than merely enduring it. You realize that discipline is not a punishment, but a form of respect. Respect for your future self, respect for your goals, respect for the life you are building. When you control your day, your confidence grows. You no longer fear challenges because your day is structured to confront them. You no longer fear failure because your day is structured to learn from it. You no longer fear inconsistency because your day is structured to defeat it before it begins. You do not leave your success up to chance. You engineer it through every hour, every challenge, every intentional act. And gradually, the world begins to bend around you, instead of you bending around it. People will notice the difference without you ever saying a word. While others complain about not having enough time, You use every minute with precision, while others fall behind because they let their days slip away. You stay ahead because you refuse to be owned by distractions. While others wait for the perfect moment to act, you act because every moment is structured to support your mission. The day is either your servant or your master. There is no middle ground. The undisciplined individual is dragged through his day by impulses, habits, and external forces. The disciplined individual pulls his day with deliberate force, shaping it into something useful. The first man wonders why life feels chaotic. The second man wonders why people willingly surrender control of the one thing they can actually command. And as time passes, the difference between these two men grows wider and wider, until one is in control of his destiny, and the other is controlled by everything except himself. Power is not granted to the emotional, the inconsistent, or the easily moved. It belongs to the one who commands himself before trying to command anything else. When you learn to act without waiting for motivation, when you train your will with the same intensity a soldier trains for war, and when you seize control of every day before it has the chance to claim you, something inside you awakens. You begin to separate yourself from the masses who drift through life, pulled blindly by their moods, their weaknesses, and whatever distraction happens to appear. You become the kind of person whose actions do not rely on excitement, who does not collapse at the first sign of discomfort, who does not surrender his future to the softness of temporary emotions. You develop a will that does not bend, a discipline that does not fade, and a structure that does not fail you when everything around you becomes unstable. People will wonder how you stay so consistent, how you keep moving when others stop, how you remain focused when the world is designed to distract you. They will assume you possess something special, but all you did was master what they avoided. You stopped negotiating with your moods. You stopped worshipping comfort. You stopped letting time slip away unused. You stood up and decided that your life would be shaped by your decisions, not your impulses. And as your actions become stronger than your feelings, your will becomes stronger than your fears, and your days become stronger than your excuses, you begin to transform into someone the world cannot ignore. Discipline becomes your armor. Consistency becomes your strategy. Self-control becomes your power. You rise not by chance, not by luck, but by relentless intention. Greatness is not built in moments of inspiration. It is built in the silent hours where you choose discipline over comfort, purpose over distraction, and will over mood. Every day you commit to this path, you carve a new identity into yourself, one defined by strength, clarity, and dominance over the one enemy that has defeated more men than anything else themselves. Those who rule themselves eventually rise above those who cannot. And when you master consistency, train your will with discipline, and shape each day with precision, you step into a level of power that few ever reach. The world begins to respond differently. Opportunities open. Respect follows. Progress accelerates. Not because life became easier, but because you became stronger. Your future belongs to the version of you who shows up with discipline, not emotion. And the moment you realize that, truly realize it, your entire life begins to shift.